Let's talk about Franklin Templeton because you kind of hinted it to me when we were hanging out in Austin, Texas. And I was like, what? I said, I couldn't believe that a big traditional financial institution was savvy enough to invest in a Bitcoin layer two. And I was pretty surprised. And they're obviously big players in the Bitcoin ETF. They got $1.5 trillion of assets.
Yes.
I mean, it's a big player.
Yeah.
They're West Coast. Can you talk about how that happened and maybe explain why that's such a big, important move? I mean, to me, that's like JP Morgan investing in you. I mean, that's a huge sign. And it also means they might even be using your layer two, which is even bigger.
We've been chatting to their partner. They actually really exploring that, to use that, not just like a passive investor, right? So, I mean, my journey with Franklin Templeton started from last year. In Dubai FinTech Summit, I saw the chairman and CEO, Jenny Johnson, was on stage on the Dubai FinTech Summit. They expanded their chapter in Dubai and talking about the potential ETF. So that was like, all the way from that, I kind of know they were applying for the Bitcoin ETF. Obviously, the whole industry moved to the next chapter, right? In the beginning of this year, I think around 13 firms, right, really properly get the license issued by SEC on the Bitcoin ETF. And then we had this rally, right? The Bitcoin pumped quite a bit and majorly actually pushed by the institutional purchasing, right? So I think we could argue this cycle is quite different compared to 2021 cycle. That last cycle was very driven by retail. This cycle heavily driven by institution right now, right? I think the reason Franklin Templeton was interesting to investors and also a few other Bitcoin ecosystem projects is because they wanted to be the position. They actually understand the industry. They actually know the additional yield opportunity, without selling their clients Bitcoin exposure to tap into new yield opportunity. As we said, as your Bitcoin holder in the past, you don't have yield opportunity, right? You're just putting your cold wallet doing nothing, right? There's no interest opportunity. The only way you get access to some yield is like giving away access to third parties as a centralized kind of CeFi, we call this, right? And then we all know what happened 2 years ago with all the major institution breakout and it crashed. So that was there. And I think Franklin Templeton definitely wants to explore the new paradigm, right? With a new Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin DeFi, and Bitcoin ecosystem. So what I heard from the partners, they established this Web3 investment arm 2 years ago called Franklin Templeton Digital Assets. And that's the focus purely on Web3, which was, I think they kind of made a history 2 years ago already, right? It was quite a bold move and it's trying to be pioneering and progressive. And then they really struggling to looking at it, good projects to invest, especially in the Bitcoin space, because they want to be Bitcoin first because they know they're most likely going to get a Bitcoin ETF, which they got this year, right? There was not too many projects they could invest. So from my knowledge, they only invest with a small check into a Bitcoin wallet company called Xverse. That was 2023. Okay. That's it. And then they're looking at a few other Web3 infrastructure. But this year, they're getting really active. So the conversation with them getting pretty productive when we actually growing pretty fast. We grow our community and also traction from like 100 million TVL to 400 during the time we were talking to them. The community we grow from 100K to 500K during that time. And obviously that was the time we get a lot of partnership announcement with a lot of interesting DeFi builders, and consumer facing applications as well. So obviously this Ordinals and the BRC20 and the Bitcoin layer 2 kind of narrative rally is pretty helpful. And they kind of been educating themselves quite a lot. And they wants to take some bets on the Bitcoin ecosystem. Actually, more than I thought. They've been pretty active last couple months. After investing us, they also invest a few other projects that are our partners in the ecosystem, which it's great to know. And I think based on their feedback, they really want to explore how to explore yield opportunity with different risk appetite for their clients. Because at the end of the day, for them it's like AUM business as well, right? They hold their clients' assets and money they tap into Bitcoin exposure now, and they don't want to sell their Bitcoin exposure, right? They want to tap into new yield. So they want to be the position they have a higher return for their clients rather than just charge less fee for the clients, right? Because it's kind of like similar commodity, right? They have the Bitcoin ETF. The other 12 firms also have Bitcoin ETF. So it's essentially the same, but why people wants to work with them, right? I think that's kind of they want to differentiate themselves. Instead of being just the cheapest ETF because of fee, they want to be the highest yield or being the sophisticated Bitcoin ETF firm. I think that makes a lot of sense strategically, and they probably can sell another 1 or 2 billion Bitcoin exposure in the upcoming months.
So when I started on Wall Street, it was 1993, and I worked for a fixed income derivatives trading shop called Bankers Trust. And so you start to learn that Wall Street firms, I mean, they live and die by yield. It's all about yield, and there's a yield curve. And fixed income, it's funny, I used to go out in Manhattan at night and people would say, "Are you a stockbroker?" And we used to laugh at stockbrokers because stockbrokers were these little punks. We were moving billions of dollars of government debt and swaps at 30-year trades, and that's where the big money was. So it's weird to have this asset, this Bitcoin, this digital gold that just sits around. It doesn't have a yield. You know, Ethereum has a kind of a staking element now and potentially a future yield curve, but Bitcoin doesn't. And it's just screaming out for a solution, right? And Franklin Templeton realizes
I think the industry just grew to this threshold, like we are such a big market cap assets now. We have to have yield, right? I think 10 years ago in the cyberpunk era of Bitcoin community, you don't necessarily have that, right? You only care about how to mine more Bitcoin. And now, because of this is the third halving, cycle, every single 20 minutes, the block, which can mine out is getting less and less. So people wants to get into the yield opportunity, right? And then people needs to figure out what kind of use cases on Bitcoin network that can generating fees, right? The fees can repay back to the miners and so on. That happened last year in Ordinals. So that's kind of the interesting paradigm shift. In the beginning, people don't like BRC20, Ordinals, even the miner, including Bitcoin Core. They think it's all garbage UTXO. It's actually even like an attack for Bitcoin network, right? It's bullshit. Some people can say that. But eventually miners realize, oh my God, there's like interesting additional block rewards they have, which is economically great for them. And they don't even know what happened. And then they just start realize, okay, there's a lot of interesting network happening in the Bitcoin space. People minting, Bitcoin Ordinals assets, BRC20, and there was like real community, like from retail, from artists, from builders, talking about Bitcoin more and more. So Bitcoin, instead of just being traded heavily on the centralized exchanges, right, which is off-chain, a lot of on-chain activities in Bitcoin happening. That is very new. It didn't really happen before Ordinals, right? And then really kind of, I would say, flip a bit on the paradigm, right? The people realize, okay, we should do something on Bitcoin. We should even build things on Bitcoin. That's all these came from last year.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.